All right, welcome everyone. Today, we're going to take a really cool microscopic journey deep inside the body. We're going to explore the histology of the upper GI tract and see how these tiny invisible structures make something as essential as digestion actually happen. You know, if you just look at the GI tract from the outside, it seems pretty simple, right? Just this long, winding tube. But if you could shrink down and zoom in, you'd discover this incredibly complex and honestly beautiful world, a hidden architecture that is perfectly engineered for its job. So let's start with the master plan. What's amazing is that almost the entire GI tract, from top to bottom, is built from the same 4 basic layers, arranged one on top of the other. You can think of it as a fundamental blueprint that just gets tweaked and modified depending on the specific job of each section. And this is it. This is that blueprint we were just talking about. This is the basic structure we're going to see over and over again on our tour today, from the esophagus all the way to the stomach. If you can get your head around these 4 layers, you've unlocked the key to understanding the whole system. Okay, let's peel these layers back, starting from the very inside, the lumen, where the food passes, and working our way out. Layer 1, the innermost lining, is the mucosa, or in Arabic, al-tabaka al-mukhatia. Right underneath that, you've got the submucosa, al-tabaka taht al-mukhatia. Then comes the muscle, the muscularis, or al-tabaka al-adalia. And finally, wrapping the whole thing up is a protective outer layer called the serosa, al-tabaka al-masliya. So that first layer, the mucosa, or al-tabaka al-mukhatia, this is where all the action happens. It's what's actually touching the food we eat. And it's not just one thing. It's made up of 3 of its own little sublayers, a lining called the epithelium, a supportive layer of connective tissue called the lamina propria, and a tiny little muscle layer called the muscularis mucosae. This is where all the important absorption and secretion takes place. Okay, this is super cool. Tucked away inside that muscularis layer is what you could call the brain of the gut. It's the myenteric plexus. This is just an incredible network of nerves that controls all the muscle contractions, that wave-like motion we call peristalsis that pushes food all the way through the system. Okay, so where does our journey actually begin? Right at the entrance, the tongue. Now, it's technically an accessory organ, and it's mostly skeletal muscle, but the surface, that mucosal layer, is incredibly specialized. You ever wonder what gives your tongue that rough texture? Well, it's covered in these thousands of tiny little bumps called lingual papillae, or al-hulaimet al-lisaniya, and there are 4 main kinds. The ones you have the most of are these thread-like filiform papillae, al-hulaimet al-khaytiya. Then you have some mushroom-shaped ones called fungiform papillae, al-hulaimet al-fitriya. There are also these really big ones in a V shape at the back called circumvallate papillae, al-hulaimet al-muhawata. And finally, on the sides, you have the foliate papillae, al-hulaimet al-warakiya. I absolutely love this slide because it shows the difference between a textbook drawing and the real thing. On the left, you see the diagram. Simple enough. But look at the right. That's a real micrograph. You can actually see those beautiful, pale, onion-shaped structures. Those are the taste buds, tucked right into the darker pink layers of the tongue's epithelium. It's amazing. So what are these taste buds, or bara'im al-tathawak, really doing? Well, they're the tiny powerhouses of taste. Each one is a little bundle of special cells, receptor cells to detect the chemicals in our food, supporting cells to hold everything together, and basal cells that act like stem cells to replace the others. And they all connect to the surface through a tiny little opening called a taste pore. All right, next stop on our tour. Let's head down the esophagus and see how that 4-layer blueprint we talked about gets adapted for a totally different job, just getting food from point A to point B safely. So think about the esophagus. Its main job is to be a delivery chute, right? It's not absorbing nutrients, it's just a muscular tube that has to withstand the friction of everything we swallow. So naturally, it's got to be tough, and you can see that toughness in its thick, folded inner lining. And this is how it protects itself. The key is in the type of lining it has. It's called stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium. I know, it's a mouthful. In Arabic, that's the hara hirshufia tabakia khair mutakarana. But let's break that down. Stratified just means it has many, many layers. So as food scrapes off the top layer of cells, there are plenty more underneath, ready to take their place. It's the perfect design for a durable, renewable barrier. Okay, we've arrived at the stomach, and this place is a whole different ballgame. It's basically a churning vat of acid.
designed for both mechanical and chemical warfare on our food. So as you'd guess, our 4-layer blueprint gets some major upgrades here.
So right away, we see a huge change in the muscularis layer. The esophagus had 2 muscle layers, right? A circular one and a longitudinal one. Well, the stomach adds a 3rd layer to the mix, an inner oblique layer. This extra muscle allows the stomach to twist and churn in a way the esophagus just can't, mixing everything together like a biological cement mix. And it's not just the muscle that's different. The inside lining, the mucosa, is completely transformed. Instead of being relatively smooth and protective, the stomach's mucosa is full of these deep crevices called gastric pits. And these pits are the openings to millions of tiny glands that tunnel down into the lining. This whole setup massively increases the surface area for secreting all the acids and enzymes the stomach needs. And if you look inside these glands, especially in the main part of the stomach, the fundus, you find this incredible team of specialized cells. You've got mucous neck cells making protective mucus, you've got parietal cells and chief cells doing the heavy lifting of digestion, and you even have enteroendocrine cells that produce hormones. It's a microscopic chemical factory. And here they are. This is what they look like under the microscope. See those big, bright pink, kind of fried egg-looking cells? Those are your parietal cells. Now look down towards the bottom of the gland. See the more purplish, grainy-looking cells? Those are the chief cells. And you can see the paler mucus cells scattered in between. So those big pink ones we just saw, the parietal cells, or al-khalaya al-jidariya, these guys are the heavy lifters. They're the ones pumping out hydrochloric acid, creating that incredibly acidic environment in the stomach that just obliterates bacteria and starts breaking down proteins. And working right alongside them are the chief cells, al-khalaya al-ra'isya. They're the enzyme factories. They produce a substance called pepsinogen. Now, pepsinogen is inactive on its own, but once it hits the acid made by the parietal cells, it transforms into pepsin, a powerful enzyme that starts chopping up proteins. Okay, so let's just pause for a second. We've gone from the tongue, down the esophagus, and into the stomach. And have you noticed the pattern? Every single structural detail we've looked at, from the number of layers in the epithelium to the specific cells in a gland, serves a very specific purpose. And this all points to one of the biggest ideas in histology. It all boils down to one of the most fundamental principles in all of biology. Form follows function, or in Arabic, al-shakli yatiba al-watifa. The way something is built, its structure, is perfectly tailored to what it needs to do. The tough, layered esophagus is built for protection. The complex, glandular stomach is built for secretion and churning. It's elegant, and it's everywhere. And the cool thing is, once you really grasp this idea, you can start making predictions. So I'll leave you with a question as we think about the next part of our journey. The main job of the small intestine is absorption, to soak up as many nutrients as possible. So knowing that form follows function, what kinds of crazy adaptations do you think we'll find there to maximize its surface area? What do you think comes next?